weeks ago. They have Georgia in the cocktail party coming up this weekend. We're now joined by Edgar Thompson. He covers the Florida Gators. Joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio as well, along with 365 Sports here on the YouTube channel and from, the Orlando Sentinel. Who are the Gators, Edgar? Are they Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde? Who are they? There? We got it?
Edgar, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh,
they are a
okay.
team. Sorry about that, fellas. They are a team that is struggling to find ways to win close ball games, is what I'll say. They're a team that is failing to create enough explosive types of plays defensively and offensively. And it's just been a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, but close. In the minds of Gator fans, it's a recipe to get rid of Dan Mullen, which I think is a little bit premature, personally. But there's it's just a bad situation here. The standard here is extremely high, and 4-3 doesn't cut it. And certainly very, very, very likely it'll be 4-4 after this weekend against Georgia.
Edgar, he is in a bit of a quarterback pickle with trying to make Emory Jones work, and I know that Richardson is probably the guy that everybody wants, and he's not, immune to turnovers, but he's probably immune to some of the really bad ones that Emory Jones has. When will he kind of buck up and just pick one guy?
I think that by the South Carolina game, which is November 6th, after this game on the road, it has to be Anthony Richardson's team. It might be handed over this week at Georgia. Or against Georgia and Jacksonville, because he doesn't have a choice at this point. There's nothing to lose. And you've seen enough of the body of work of Emory Jones to realize great kid, team player, all the things you want. Class act, hard worker, just doesn't get it done. He's late on throws, doesn't diagnose quickly. He's a talented runner, but he's not even as good a runner as Anthony. And Anthony's just got a bigger arm. He seems to be more accurate, quicker decision maker. If not for the hamstring injury he suffered at the end of an 80-yard touchdown run where he basically outran like everybody on the field, the kid would have probably had the job before by now. Maybe Kentucky game might have been the switch. I don't know, but it's coming. And that's the future, and everyone can see it, including, I'm sure, Emory Jones. Now, he might have a role. He might come off the bench and give you a spark here and there or do something, change of pace. He knows the offense. There might be situations that he's just better to be in. But Anthony is going to give you those explosives that this offense just lacks. You got to have explosive plays, man, in this game now. I mean, it's always been beneficial, but now it's essential.
Edgar, I know players probably don't, say too much in terms of the negative. They're smart, but any insider idea into how, the kind of upheaval or of sorts or uncertainty, I should say, about, the quarterback spot? How much of an effect has that had, if any?
Players are all in on whatever the plan is at QB from what they say.
Right.
You never know what's going on in the locker room, but Emory's been here 4 years. Anthony's been here 2, but one of them was the weird COVID year, no spring practice, no real full team meetings, full quarterback room sessions, none of that. So this is really his first year. He's 19 still, turned it in May, and he's a young guy. So Emory has a lot of gravitas with this team and in the soccer room. But I think they can see what's going on. They can see who the better player is, and they want to win games. But so I don't know that it's a big controversy. They back both guys, but they want to win games at this point, and they want to upset Georgia and ruin the Bulldogs season. Rival team, number one team in the nation. Gators are playing the number one team here, guys, for the second time in 6 weeks, for 6 games. Alabama was number one coming into the Swamp. So, you don't get those kind of opportunities very often in a season, 2 number ones in one season. So they see this is a chance to salvage a season that's been highly disappointing thus far.
Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel, Florida and Georgia coming up this weekend. I did notice Julian Humphrey, a highly recruited player who's committed to Florida, has made a decommitment. It's been a couple of guys that are highly rated for this class of 2022, and signing day is just a couple of months away, less than that. How much has that created some smoke when it comes to Florida fan base as well?
It's a 5-alarm fire, man. It ain't just smoke over here. This is the big situation, the big knock on Dan. It always has kind of been that they rely on developing more than signing the best guy, the best talent. Doesn't mean they can get it. I mean, you take your shot and you land the person or not, and they haven't done that enough. But some people think that's because of Dan's laissez-faire attitude toward recruiting, that he feels like he can uncover hidden gems, develop them. He's done that for years. I mean, at Mississippi State, that was his calculus. But that didn't have to be that at Florida. You have a down Florida State program, a down Miami program, right? I mean, UCF's even like tailing off a little, but you can't beat UCF going to beat Florida for a recruit most times anyway. But the problem is Florida used to be like back in the day of the Big Three, right? In the 90s, Miami, Florida State, Florida, when they were ruling college football, essentially. I mean, Nebraska was certainly in there and a couple others, but they own the state. Now the state is invaded constantly, right? I mean, you're being invaded by Ohio State, by Clemson. All these other schools are coming in here and pilfering recruits out of your backyard. And Alabama, and they're very frustrated when they see that, fans are. So, yeah, Dan needs to pick it up on the recruiting trail, bottom line. And that's really holding this program back potentially because, you know, they're signing 5-stars off the transfer wire portal, and those are guys that really needed a change of scenery for whatever reason, and they're not like the true young impact guy that you're like bringing in from day one and developing in your system from the moment, you know, he arrived. So it's a rough road, man, on the recruiting trail right now for the Gators, and they need to find a way to smooth it out and get some guys. Now, adding to it, fellas, is the fact that Dan Mullen got a show cause penalty 2 years ago, 2019. He had texted a recruit. I mean, some of these rules are absurd. I mean, it didn't seem like a big deal to me, but it's against the rule, whatever he did. Got a show cause. They took him off the road for the fall of 2020 plus 4 days into 2021. Well, due to COVID restrictions, they actually ended up applying it to this fall. So Dan can't even go on the road. So think about this. You're like losing recruits. You're not recruiting well. It's like the thing everyone's screaming and yelling about, and you want to fix it and help to like get it going. And you got to sit at home with your wife and kids because you can't recruit. You can't go out on the road. So it's a pretty cruel irony going on right now because Dan might not be the aggressive recruiter or cut of the Urban Meyer cloth, Ron Cook, even Muschamp, but he wants to be out there guaranteed right now, and he can't.
Edgar, you brought up the 90s. I'm a Florida State grad, and I graduated in 2002. So, like, that was the pinnacle of all the teams being good, of Miami and Florida State and Florida. And it's funny, as a fan, sometimes you'd be like, oh, it's great that the other teams suck right now. But really, all three teams being bad has allowed the wall to come down around Florida recruiting-wise. So, really, in kind of a weird way, all those three teams need each other to be good again so that they can keep the players in state fighting against each other.
Yeah, no, I like the point because they did. They all started kind of struggling. Urban, I'm telling you, man, Jeremy Foley, the former AD here, who is a legend in these parts and built a tremendous athletics program. But in some ways, I don't want to say the game passed him by. I mean, Jeremy's very smart and still, you know, on top of things. But it's like he didn't see facilities and fundraising and all that as like the biggest thing to do, right? The 21st century AD, post 2010 is what I would really say. That's the paradigm now. You got to be a fundraiser, you got to build facilities, and you got to push that aspect of everything. Jeremy kind of didn't do that, and they're paying the price now because the facilities here are behind. They got an $85 million standalone that's being erected as we speak, will be done next spring. But they're way behind. Everyone has that. They got an indoor practice facility because Jim McElwain came in and basically demanded it. Will Muschamp wanted one. Urban wanted one. In fact, a lot of people think that was a big sticking point with him and Foley. But Muschamp did not push it as hard as he needed to. And, one of his top players, blew out his knee on a wet field, Dominic Easley. So anyway, the point I'm making is Florida's lagging a bit because of some of these things that they've done, didn't do. But now, you got Scott Strickland in here, and he's got some things that need to get straight under his watch, man.
Edgar, I know that the turnovers were a big part of the problem against LSU, but that LSU run game was able to do whatever they wanted to, well over 300 yards. Is there a concern about the Gators' defense? And obviously Georgia's going to run the football, so what do you think has maybe changed from their last outing against the Tigers in order to try and best as they can contain the Bulldogs?
I mean, concern would be putting it mildly. It is. You think there's a 5-alarm fire with recruiting. I got it. The code red on defense. They are up in arms here because Todd Grantham came back in the first place. Dan retained Todd. They have a good relationship. They've been together since 17 in Mississippi State. Todd certainly has SEC experience, a good track record, and produced good defenses his first 2 years here. Well, last year it was terrible. Historically bad, 30.8 points a game. A lot of defenses struggled after COVID. I mean, if you go look at the statistics, but they went from top 10 defense, 80-something last year. Most points allowed per game since World War II by the Gators. So it was bad. A lot of people wanted Todd gone. They brought him back, and it was going pretty well. I mean, good, but not great. Missed tackles, as I said, not forcing up turnovers. They're forced 6 and 8 in 7 games this year. I mean, it's not going to cut it. But last week or 2 weeks ago, the wheels fell off. LSU just kept running the same counter and power run plays right up the middle of the defense and just gashed them. It was amazing. That team was averaging 83 yards a game rushing. They rushed for 321. One player rushed for 287, a school record at LSU. Think all the great backs that place is at. So that was a nightmare, and now Todd Grantham there's no path back for Todd Grantham at this point. I guess if they shut out Georgia and shut out 3 other teams, they might reconsider. But, I mean, at this point, his contract expires. Todd Grantham will be working somewhere else next year.
I got to ask you this, Edgar, because I saw part of your bio for the Orlando Sentinel. An addiction to hot peppers. Have you ever had a ghost pepper?
I mean, I've done the ghost pepper sauce. I mean, I have hot sauces in here that make your head come off. But I eat jalapenos with every meal. I mean, I got a pile of them in there right now. I lived in New Mexico for 16 years and just developed a real hot pepper. I'm a hot pepper enthusiast. But yeah, now there's a seafood place here in Gainesville, fantastic seafood. I live in Gainesville. I'm just a couple miles from the swamp here. And they have an array of them. In fact, the other day, the owner walked out and said, "Hey, I got this new stuff from Daytona. You want to try it?" I said, "Sure, I'll buy some." He goes, "No, just take it." He goes, "I want to get your review."
Wow.
So now I'm reviewing sauces. I've gotten to the point like that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Hey, good stuff, Edgar. Glad we got you on, man. Really good. Glad you could be a part of it, and have fun this weekend at the cocktail party.
Oh, I enjoyed it. Have me anytime, fellas.
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Edgar Thompson, Orlando Sentinel. It's Florida and also Georgia in the big party down in Jacksonville.
I just came to a realization that I have to, I do miss everything being good. The 90s were fun. It's not so much as fun when every team sucks.
Yeah,
and you play each
across
other.
the board.
So now I have to root for Miami and Florida to get good again.
Yeah.
Along with your own team.
I know. I mean, everybody together. Let's all do this. Let's come together.
Yeah. And then when they all get good again, if they ever do, which is hard, you're like, God, I hate Florida.
Why did I have to do? Why did I wish for this?
All right.
I think it's interesting. Mullen's not in any danger. He's not going to have a Matt Wells situation, where they get beat this weekend and turn around and you're fired. And they don't think he's probably in much danger of being fired this offseason unless they were just to completely tank. But, they're at least starting that watch, and that is interesting. And, that quarterback debacle, man, the quarterback position will just throw you for a loop, man. It really will.
It takes the Gators historically about 2 years to eat their young. I mean, like, that's what they do. So it'll be this year, and then at the end of next year. Ron Zook should have been gone long before he was.
Yeah.
But there was this, well, if this just works out, like, no, it's not going to work out.
From Quentin Dude on the chat room, I eat jalapenos all of the time, too. Thank you, Quentin. Glad you have you on the show.
I have no idea what the joy is of eating a pepper because I have the weakest spice palate of anybody. Like, I can't do any spice whatsoever. It's just not for me. I wish I knew what the enjoyment was of having that heat and actually liking that, because I have the complete opposite reaction.
Edgar could go on Hot Ones.
I was thinking of Hot Ones. Yeah, I would love to go on that show for the experience. There's no chance. I wouldn't go past the first wing. I'm such a wuss when it comes to that.
I remember the first time I hit a jalapeno and I thought I was eating a pickle, and believe me, it was bad, bad. Spices are for men. That's from Max, who, by the way, Max, if you're listening, let me tell you something. You need to calm down some of the things you're saying on the chat room. We're going to nuke you in a little bit, so be careful. In fact, somebody just did. Spices, there's certain, sometimes it's just how you're built as far as your stomach, whatever you can. There's to a point where it's too much for me, and doesn't have to be all that spicy as well. Craig, you like it you're basically.
I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
I don't like any spice.
Yeah, I know.
I was at Nashville thinking I was a tough guy back in April, and went to a hot chicken place, and I asked the person, hey, what's really hot? And they're like, oh, you can do the second level. It's fine. Everybody here can. And then I think they were just doing it to watch me go, poof.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that.
Start praying the rosary.
From a sense of humor, JG Neolardo. Bubba, try being Mexican and not liking spice. Social outcast.
I bet.
When we come back, Marcus Sedberry of Baylor Athletics next on Sikkim 365 Radio.
If you